Okay, we will continue then. See, the next topic which I am going to discuss, since we have completed with now CFT, that is crystal field theory. Based on that, crystal field theory helps us to understand the color in the complex. Okay, so here our next topic is color in the complex. Now remember, for any compound, if they have to show the color, okay, they should absorb the color in the visible region. Okay, if a compound has to exhibit some color, then they have to absorb the color in the visible region. And you have studied the visible region. Okay, you had this in your first year. If you remember, the visible region ranges from 380 nanometer approximately to 760 nanometer. Okay, approximately I'm taking some even they give you around 400 to 700 nanometer. Okay, so these are the ranges in which the visible region lies. Okay, that is 380 nanometer to 760 nanometer. So within this region where we are able to see the things, okay, that complex has to absorb certain amount of wavelength. Okay, and then the remaining one which is being given out, that is what we are able to see in the form of color. Okay, so when you have a white light, for example, here if I am taking white light, okay, white light has all the 7 colors, correct? No, so in that, when you make it to pass through a complex, now here I am taking the complex. So when you pass this white light into the complex which has all this colors, okay, the wavelength in them, okay, so they will absorb certain, okay, they will absorb certain wavelength, they will absorb certain wavelength. I'll just write as lambda. Okay, and the remaining ones will be given out. Okay, the remaining is given out. So whatever has been given out, that is seen in the form of color. That is what we see in the form of color. So whatever appears to be as color, that is because the remaining wavelength has been emitted out by that particular complex. Okay, so here we will understand how exactly that color is been given. So basically that color which is given by the complex, it is the main reason for that is the ligand. Okay, the sole reason is there, no, that is because of the ligand. So I can write here ligand is the main reason for the complex to exhibit the color. So initially you have seen we have this metal d orbital which are degenerate. They have all the orbitals in the same energy. Okay, so d orbitals are there which are having same energy, but when the ligand approaches, okay, when the ligand approaches this metal, you have seen this metal d orbital undergo splitting. Okay, so I will take only this octahedral complex now here. So let me take 3 orbitals down. You have seen that 3 orbitals goes down. Okay, that is T2G orbital, and then we have 2 orbitals which are going in the higher energy state due to the repulsion. So Eg will be at the top. Okay, that is dx square minus y square and dz square will be at the top, and dxy, yz and xz will be below. Okay, at the bottom I can say. So that is T2G and the upper ones are Eg. So when the splitting occurs, then if there is an electron present, okay, whichever electrons are present here, now for example, if one electron is present in this T2G region, okay, so these electrons will absorb certain wavelength of energy. So they will absorb the energy, okay, and then they will go to the higher energy state. Remaining ones will be given out, and that is, I said, is seen in the form of colors. Okay, so in the presence of the ligand, what happens is there is splitting of the d orbital. Okay, and due to that splitting, these electron from the ground state, now this becomes the ground state for us. Okay, so this lower energy state will be the ground state, and this will be called as excited state. Higher energy state will be the excited state. So these electron from the ground state will take certain amount of energy and goes to the excited state. Okay, and this transition which is happening, it is also because it is happening in the d orbital itself. Okay, so this transition is also called as a dd transition. Okay, this transition which is happening between the d orbital itself, so it is also called as the dd transition. Okay, and this transition is possible only if the electron present in the d orbital ranges from 1 to 9. Okay, means if they are completely filled, then that transition won't be possible because there is no place available. No? So if you take zinc now, zinc will not contain any electrons. Okay, all the electrons in them will be paired up. So there is no possibility that the electron from the ground state can go to the excited state. So such compounds are there, no, they will appear colorless. So remember these many electrons, this we have even done in the D block, if you can recall. Okay, so D block also we discussed the same thing. No, and I told you zinc is not categorized in the transition element series. Okay, that one reason is because of this, they are not able to show DD transition. Okay, they don't show any DD transition in them, so they were not put under D block element. But since they contain that 10 electrons in the D orbital, so they were placed over there. Okay, so that was the reason. So remember the electrons in the d orbital, if they range from 1 to 9, then they will show dd transition, they will exhibit color or they will impart color. Okay, so you don't have to by heart the color as such, but then if you want, I will give you that list. Okay, like which color, which complementary colors will be given out. Okay, what color they absorb, no, complementary color to that will be given out. So you can remember this color wagon. So I'll draw this color wagon. Okay, so VIBGYOR is our main series of a spectrum. No, the colors are there. So that is the same order which you have to write here. Okay, so you're not by hearting anything extra here. So remember in the VIBGYOR we have VI coming first, violet and indigo. Violet, indigo, green, blue, yellow, orange, and then red. Okay, so here after this VI, then you will have green. Sorry, sorry. Okay, students, VIBGYOR, no. Yes, so this is the order V G O R. Okay, so you have violet, indigo, then it is blue, then we have green, then we have yellow, then it's orange, and then it is red. Okay, so this is the order. So you put violet and indigo together, rest every places you put one color each. Okay, so here if the complex absorbs violet color, then the color opposite to that is yellow. So yellow color will be shown by them. Okay, suppose if it is blue color which is being seen, that means orange color is being absorbed. And if they are absorbing, then that particular will appear green to you. Okay, so whatever color they absorb, complementary color to that will be shown out. Okay, so this is the order. So if ligand is present, there will be splitting, crystal field splitting takes place. So electron can go from the ground state to the excited state. They can show excitation, and when they get excited, they absorb certain color and the remaining colors are given out. So that is the reason why the complex also appears to be color. Okay, like now one example if I take, in the presence of ligand, titanium, this example you have, so titanium H2O 6 and 8 plus. Titanium, number of titanium is 22, but I can check out that titanium, okay, in this particular complex is in 3 plus oxidation state. Okay, so that means 3 electrons are lost. Titanium is in 3 plus oxidation state, because water, you know that they don't carry any charge. No, it's a neutral molecule. So the charge which is given by them is 0. So I can write titanium 3 plus. So the number of electrons which will be present will be 1. No, 3 electrons will be lost. So titanium 3 plus will be in 3D 1 system. Okay, so 1 electron is present. So same excitation will happen here, which I showed you. No, so what happens is these orbitals which are above present. Okay, then we have only 1 electron which are there in the lower energy state, and then from here lower energy it jumps to the higher energy state and they impart the color. Okay, so here this titanium complex is able to impart the color because there is 1 electron which is present in the d orbital. They take certain energy and go to the higher energy state. Okay, so that's it. You need to remember here why the complex shows color. That is because of DD transition. If you remove now water molecule, suppose if this molecule you are heating them up. Okay, so if I take this titanium H2 if I'm heating them, what will happen is whatever water molecules are linked with this titanium ion, okay, that will be lost. Okay, so when they are losing it, you will get titanium 3 plus and then water molecules are lost. So if there is no water molecule present, then the splitting is there. No, that will not occur. Okay, the splitting will not take place only. All these d orbitals will be present like they will be degenerate and there is no splitting occurring. So when there is no splitting, there is no possibility that electron from the lower energy can go anywhere. Okay, because there is no place available for them to go. So that is the reason why this will appear colorless. Okay, so complex when they appear colorless. Yeah, copper sulfate when they are hydrated, they appear to be blue in color. Yeah, the reason is because they absorb orange wavelength, which is responsible for orange color. No, that much amount of wavelength will be absorbed and remaining thing they give out. So that is the reason copper sulfate when they are hydrated, they appear to be blue in color. Okay, but if you remove the water molecules, you make them anhydrous. Anhydrous copper sulfate are colorless. I hope the color part is clear to everyone. If there is ligand, I will repeat once again, if there is ligand, remember there is splitting. In the presence of ligand, there is splitting. When there is splitting, DD transition can occur and they impart color. Okay, they will impart color. The complex will impart color. But if there is no ligand, remember, if there is no ligand, the d orbitals are like this only. Okay, so there is degeneracy maintained. There is no splitting. When there is no splitting, there is no transition possible. Okay, if there is no transition, then the particular complex will be colorless. Okay, only this much you can remember. Now let us discuss the merit of this particular theory, that is crystal field theory, certain merits. The merit of this theory is the color is being explained, no? So one is they could explain the formation of the complex. Okay, so I'll just write down. The merits of this theory are, one is they could explain how formation takes place in the complex. Okay, they were able to explain the formation. They could even explain the okay, structure, and then color you can see here. Color is being explained, and even to certain magnetic properties are also explained. Okay, so all these explained in this particular theory. Okay, color you have already seen how it is. And the demerits of this theory is, the demerits are, if you remember the assumption, okay, what they have told is the anionic part is there, no? The anionic ligands are considered as point charges, okay? So according to this theory, anionic ligands are considered as point charges. When you call them as point charge, okay, what does it mean is the whole charge is concentrated in one particular region. You can even imagine like a sharp knife is there, no? So that sharp edge part, if you are imagining, all the force will be acting in this small region. Okay, so you can even imagine the anionic ligand in that way. Point charge means all the whole concentration of the charges in that one particular region. Okay, in one single point, all the force will be acting in that region. See, if that is the case, then what should have happened is the anionic ligand should have been the strong field ligand, and the one which are having a dipole, the one which are showing the charge separation, they should have been the weak field ligand. But then according to their assumption, the things did not work out. It is not going in agreement with whatever they have said. Okay, what is being found is, according to the experimental part, this was the assumption part. Okay, but from the experiment what we got to know is that anionic ones are the weaker one, and the one which are having dipoles, they found out to be the stronger ones. Okay, so this we got from experiment, that is the spectrochemical series. Okay, so this was the wrong assumption which was being given by them, that ligand which are anionic in nature are point charges. It's not true. Okay, their whole charge is not concentrated in that one region and they are not that powerful. And one more demerit is they could not explain anything related to the covalent bonding. Okay, they have just concentrated on the electrostatic interaction. Okay, they did not give us any detail about the covalent character. Okay, so it does not explain the covalent character. Explain the covalent character. This theory could not take any account of this particular. That comes under the demerit part. Yes, now I'm going for the next concept, again important one, okay, but then it's an outdated concept, that is about Werner's theory. Okay, so our next theory is about Werner's theory, which I'm going to explain, which was given by the scientist called as Alfred Werner. Okay, and he is even called as father of coordination compound because he was the first person to give the coordination compound. Okay, the complex which is being formed, okay, that was first discovered by him. Okay, Alfred Werner. And he is, even I said, he is also called compound. He is father of coordination compound because he was to discover and many theories covered by him. So he is father of coordination compound. Yes, correct. If there is electrostatic force of attraction, they are just talking only about the ionic compounds there. Okay, they didn't account for any covalent character. Like one positive ion and one negative ion. So two ions are just held to each other by the opposite forces. So that is a drawback. No, they should have considered, because it's not only the ionic compound. If it was ionic in nature, then they should have been able to decompose into the water very easily. But then that doesn't happen, no? So that's one drawback of it. Okay, so I was talking about the next concept, that is about Werner's theory we are going to discuss. I said it is given by Alfred Werner and he is also called as father of coordination compound. Okay, so let us discuss like what was the experiment part which was done by him. So I am going to explain his postulates based on the experiment which he did. Okay, so you can just make a note of whatever I am explaining here. So what he did is, in his experiment, okay, he has taken, now I will write down those experiment part. He has taken 1 mole of cobalt chloride, Cl3, okay, and then he made to react with 6 moles of ammonia. Okay, so I'm taking 6 moles of. So when he made this reaction with this particular compounds which he has taken, that is ammonia and then COCl3, he got a complex. Okay, we wanted to check how exactly that complex are arranged, whether all of the ions which are linked or the molecules which are linked to the cobalt will get ionized or they will not get ionized, how many of them will get ionized, how many of them will remain with the metal, all that he wanted to check. So he knew that the complex will be formed with these two compounds mixed together, they give rise to a complex. Okay, further he wanted to check out whether the complex will answer certain test. Okay, so when he found out for ammonia it was not giving any answer. Okay, for the cobalt also it didn't give any answer. What happened is when he checked for chlorine, okay, to check out for the chlorine, you remember the test students, you were doing confirmatory test for chlorine in the lab. Do you remember what we were adding to get the precipitate, the white color precipitate you are getting in the lab, no? Can you just recall and tell me in the lab, what was the test we were doing for chloride? What were the reagents we were adding? You were going to the side shelf and you were adding certain reagent. Can you recall and tell me what was that reagent you were adding? To check for chloride ion? And even for bromide, it was same, no? Same test you were doing. And the name itself has the compound actually. If you could remember the name of the test. That itself is a compound which has been added to get the test for chloride ion. Can you recall? What was the compound you were adding to get the confirmatory test for chloride? Confirmatory test for chloride. Chloride. There is a name for that test. Anyone who can answer? What was that compound you were adding? At least guesswork you do. That is not the one, okay? That is not the one. Okay, I'll give you one more clue. It starts from S. The name starts from S. Yes, very good. Okay, I'm getting many answers now. Yeah, silver nitrate. Very good. That's silver nitrate which we were adding. Very good. So here for checking out the chloride ion, what he did is he tried to make it react with the silver nitrate. Okay, excess of silver nitrate was taken. So I am taking AgNO3. So that is the confirmatory test, no? Silver nitrate test. You were taking the salt and then you were preparing the solution of it. Then you were adding silver nitrate to that. Okay. And then the precipitate what you get is silver chloride. That white color precipitate what you were getting was for silver chloride. Okay, so when he did this complex and he made it to react with excess of silver nitrate, okay, what he observed is he got 3 moles, okay, when all this whatever I am doing here, okay. So 1 mole of COCl3, then 6 moles of ammonia he took, and then he got a complex and then he made that complex to react with AgNO3. In that case, what he got is 3 mole of AgCl, okay. Then in the next case, he changed the concentration, okay. He kept on changing the concentration of ammonia here. So 1 mole of COCl3, 1 mole of COCl3 I'm going to take, and then we are going to reduce this amount of ammonia. 5 radicals of ammonia he has taken, okay, and a complex was formed, okay. So a complex was formed here, and complex was made to react with the silver nitrate, okay. I'm writing AgNO3. So it was made to react with nitrate. He got only 2 moles of silver chloride getting precipitated out. AgCl, only 2 moles were getting precipitated, okay. And next time again changing the concentration, 1 mole of COCl taking and then making it to react with 4 moles of NH3. Okay, again complex, checking out how many amount of chloride will get precipitated out. Okay, so when he made it to react with silver nitrate, what he found is only 1 mole of silver chloride is precipitated out. Okay, with this, what he concluded is that there are compounds. Okay, in that compound, certain ions and molecules are held tightly, which doesn't show any answer. Okay, and the ions, some of the ions which are present outside, they get displaced from that compound and then they start showing the answer. Okay, so what he obtained from this particular experiment, the conclusion what he got from this particular experiment, that was being given out in the form of postulates. Okay, the conclusion of these experiments are given in the form of postulates. So with this experiment, where you can see when he took different concentration of ammonia and then he prepared that complex and he tried to find out how much amount of AgCl has been formed. Here he got 3 moles of AgCl. Okay, so here he got 3 moles of AgCl. In the second case, he got 2 mole of AgCl, and in the last case, he got only 1 mole of AgCl. So he concluded that there are 2 types of valences. Okay, so the postulate which he came up with, okay, that postulate says that there are 2 types of valences. Okay, and he named them as primary valences and secondary valences. So basically what is happening is few of the ions which are present, they are getting displayed and they are showing the answer. Like for example, if 1 mole of AgCl answer we are getting, that means how many Cl is present here outside? Only 1 Cl is present. And in this case where they are showing 2 moles of AgCl as getting precipitated, that means the silver, that is the chloride ion which is present outside, is only 2. And here in this case, if 3 moles are getting precipitated, that means 3 chloride ions are present outside. So what he concluded is that is there are ions which are present outside and there are ions which are present inside. Okay, and inside ions are directly linked to the metal atom. So this was like his basic idea. He is trying to figure out how the complex might be. Okay, this was the initial beginning theory. Okay, but I'm doing it now so that because now you are a little familiar with the complex and everything, so I'm doing it now. So here with this particular experiment, he found out there are ions which are present outside and there are certain ions or molecules which are directly linked to the metal. Okay, and the one which are present outside, okay, not all the time they will be called as, this outside one can also be present inside. Okay, sometimes. So you remember these outside ones I will now for temporary name as primary valences. Okay, but it need not be always outside. It can be either outside, it can be sometimes found inside also. I will tell you, it depends. But now for time being, you remember, since here many ions we have got it outside, no, so I have put them outside. And then the one which are inside, no, that he named them as secondary valences. Okay, the one which are directly linked to the metal, that was named as secondary valences. Okay, it is also called as linkage, means the amount of the ligand which are directly attached to the metal. Okay, that is called as linkage, the linkage ones. Okay, primary valencies and the secondary valences. So I told you now here he found two, one which are directly attached to the metal and the one which are found outside the complex. Okay, so outside one, I said need not be all the time outside, but most of the time you will get them outside. They are named as primary valences. The one who are inside, they were named as secondary valences. Okay, which are directly linked with the metal. Now, from this particular experiment, can we deduce like how many ions which are present outside, and can we come to the complex part of it? Can we write the complex by seeing this particular experimental data which we have got? See here, this one CuCl3 and then 4NH3 molecule, 4 moles. Okay, so from here we got to know that only 1 mole of AgCl has precipitated out. That means what? Write the complex now actually. So your CO is linked with 4 ammonia molecule, and then from here 3 CZ, no? 1 Cl has gone out. So only is inside only. So this is how he deduced the structure of the particular coordination compound, because one has got precipitated. That means only one is present outside, and which was present inside, they don't get ionized because they didn't show us any value. Okay, because he has taken everything with the measurement. No, everything was taken with the measurement, but then 1 minute, students. Yes. So everything was done with the measurement I said, but then only 1 Cl got precipitated out. Now for the second one also we can reduce the structure. See how it will be. In the second case, 2 moles of AgCl has got precipitated. That means 2 Cl are present outside and remaining everything is directly linked to the metal. Okay, so I can write it in this way. Cobalt in the center, only 2 Cl has got out. Okay, so I will put that Cl2 out. Rest everything is present inside. That means your 5 ammonia molecules are directly linked to the cobalt ion and 1 chlorine is again linked to the cobalt ion. Okay, and in this case what is happening, 3 moles of AgCl is getting precipitated. That means whatever chloride he has taken here, everything is present outside and the 6 ammonia molecules are present inside. So CO, NH3, 6 and then Cl 3. Okay, so with this we can understand that whichever is present outside with this structure, if you are able to see, whichever ions are present outside, okay, only they will be showing the answer for the silver nitrate. So here 3 are present. So that was the reason when it started reacting with silver nitrate, okay, it gave 3 mole of AgCl. Here 2 moles of AgCl. Why we have got? Because only 2 were present outside, rest everything were directly linked to the metal. Okay, so whichever is present outside, I said temporarily, you remember, they are named as primary valences, and the one which are present inside, that he named as secondary valences. Okay, now we can still come up with few more things. Okay, now primary valences, if you have seen there, okay, what was the one which was satisfying the primary valences? It was a negative ion, chloride ion. Everywhere only chloride ion was present. So primary valences are usually satisfied by, okay, these are usually satisfied by, normally satisfied by negative ions. Okay, so I'll just write negative ions. So these are satisfied by negative ions. Secondary valences are there. So there you have seen some are neutral molecules and some are negative ions. So it can be either way. Okay, it can be either satisfied by, it can be satisfied by either the neutral molecules, it can be a neutral molecule, or it can be a negative ion, or they can be a negative ion. Okay, need not be a negative ion all the time. It can be neutral molecule or it can be negative ion. Okay, and then the primary valences are the one which got ionized. Okay, so remember, primary ones are there, no, they are ionizable. Okay, so the next point, what we can see, the one which are present outside, we can get ionized. Okay, so the one which are present outside, and one which are present inside, no students, these are not getting ionized, so they were not showing us any test. Okay, if you take inside complex and then if you want to find for ammonia, they were not answering any test for ammonia, neither they answered any of them. Okay, so that indicate that they are linked together and they were not free enough to answer any of the test. Okay, so that means they are non-ionizable, they were non-ionizable. So that is about secondary ones. Okay, so two types of linkage you have to remember. That becomes the first postulate actually. This is the first postulate. Okay, that there are secondary valences and primary valences. Okay, and primary valences, I said, they are usually satisfied by negative ion, but the secondary valences are there, no, that can be either satisfied by neutral molecule or they can be satisfied by negative ion. So this will be the second postulate. Third postulate, secondary valences are there, they are non-ionizable, but primary valences, since they are present outside, they are ionizable. Okay, they will be the one who will be answering the test. Okay, and fourth postulate, now this secondary valences are there, no, that will be equal to the coordination number. Okay, how many ions are present directly linked to the metal, that will be equal to, that secondary valences will be equal to, okay, here equal to I have written for secondary valences, they are equal to the coordination number. Okay, and the primary valences, okay, that will be equal to the, they will be equal to oxidation state of the metal, they are equal to oxidation state of the metal. Means how many negative ion the particular complex will take, that depends what charge the metal carries. Okay, suppose if CO3 plus is a charge, then the number of ions they will take will be 3 negative ions, so 3 Cl minus will be linked. Okay, so that depends on the charge of the metal ion. So always primary valences will be equal to the oxidation state. Don't see the number of ions which are present outside. Okay, don't see this number and try to tell what are the primary valences. You can calculate the primary valences like how you calculate the oxidation state of the metal, because you know now that chloride ion carries -1 charge and ammonia carries 0 charge. So whatever charge that metal carries, no, that is the primary valences, that is the oxidation state. Okay, now one more, the last one, primary valences are usually non-directional. Okay, primary valences are non-directional in nature, they don't have any particular direction. Like KCl, if you take now, KCl I can write them in any direction, no? K and then Cl compound. Okay, it can be written in any direction. So there is no particular direction as such. They are non-directional. Like that only, this negative ions which get linked to the complex ion, they are non-directional in nature. But this secondary valences are there, no? They are directional in nature. Yes. These are directional in nature, and then they determine the spatial arrangement of the coordination compound. For example, if the coordination number, because coordination number, if it is 5 or 6, different spatial arrangement we can have. Suppose if the coordination number is 4, okay, then we can have this type of arrangement, metal with that, which can be either attached in this way, or even one more attachment is possible in this way. Okay, so it can be either tetrahedral or it can be square planar. If there is 5 coordination number, then 3 will be on the plane and 1 up and 1 below. Okay, so this determines the geometry. That is, the coordination number determines the geometry. Okay, and that coordination number is what? Equal to the secondary valencies. So secondary valencies tells the spatial arrangement of the molecule. Primary valency will not tell you any spatial arrangement because they are not directional in nature. They are just satisfying the metal atom which is present, okay, in the complex. I hope the Werner postulates are clear. If you have any doubt, you can ask me, students. If you didn't follow anything in the Werner's postulate, and it's an outdated concept, okay? Nowadays, we don't use this particular concept because a better theory has been come forward. This was the old concept which was given by him. So you can write down, I'll just scroll up. You write down these points, okay? You can write down these points and then we will work out few questions. So I'll get a clear picture whether you have understood what is primary and what is secondary valency. Yes, now I will take few questions. See, on the basis of this following observation, the table is given. So I will directly give you that table. Okay. Formula of that compound is given to you. And then how many moles of AgCl is getting precipitated with silver nitrate is given. Okay. So I'll say AgCl. So what is your job is to find how much is the secondary valences. Okay. So you need to find out how much is the secondary linkage or secondary valences by seeing this formula and seeing the number of moles of AgCl precipitated. You have to find out. So I will give you that formula. See, one is this PdCl2 4NH3. Okay, then I will write here 2. So complex we will write after this. You can leave one more place on this side to write what will be that complex. Okay, answer we will write here. Second one, you can think till then. Okay, I am writing few complex side. By the time you will have to think. So you tell me what is the secondary valences. It's just a number. You just have to type a number and tell me. See observations correctly and tell me what will be the secondary. I'm not asking you primary valences. I am only asking secondary valences. Yes, can answer. Very good. Primary valency and secondary valencies, but in that I am asking you only the secondary valencies. Can you tell me for the first one? Think and tell me, okay, little. 2 AgCl is being precipitated out. So what will be the secondary valency? Secondary valencies. Yeah, this is also answer. See, 2 AgCl is precipitated. That means 2 Cl is out. No, I can write. See, 1 I will write and then you try to answer me. See, Cl2. 2 AgCl has gone out. That means Cl2 is out. 2 Cl2 molecule is out. There is only Cl answer we have got. That means everything is inside. The others are not answering any test. Okay. So I can write palladium here first and then how many ammonia molecules are there? So I can write in this way. NH3 we have anyways written out. No? So that will be out only. So how many now answer? First one. It is 4. I hope now at least you got an idea. Wherever you can see the Cl, okay, that will be usually present outside depending on how many moles are precipitated. Now here only 2 moles were precipitated out. So I have removed this 2 out. If 1 is there, then you will remove only 1 out. If nothing is there, you will not remove anything out. Rest everything you will put inside. Yes, now try to answer for the second one. Very good. What is the secondary valency? Here secondary valency is 4. Okay, first one, secondary valency is 4. First one answer is 4. Second one answer, 2 is out. Correct, no, this 2Cl is out. So whatever water is there, that will be directly linked to the nickel atom. So secondary valency will be 6. In this case, you see, nothing is getting precipitated out. So what will be the valencies? For the third case, 4 Cl molecule is there and then we have again 2 Cl is again there, no? And Cl is not getting precipitated out. That means everything is attached directly to the platinum atom. Okay. So this 4 is also attached and the other 2 is also attached. In this case again it will be 6. Now here you see cobalt, 1 mole is getting precipitated out. That means 1 chloride ion you can take out. Remaining will be 2 chlorine and plus 4 ammonia molecules are there. So how much it will be? 6. Very good. Yes. Okay. So it will be 6. Last one at least you all tell now. Secondary valences are 4. Yes. Correct. 4. Yeah, hydrogen, what I feel is hydrogen will go into the solution, okay? And this chloride will be linked to the platinum atom. Yes, I hope this part is clear. So here from this side, the question can be asked. One compound will be given to you and they will ask you so many moles are getting precipitated out. So you need to find what is the primary and the secondary valences based on that. Okay. Yes, so I will stop here. Which part you want me to explain now? This one, how many moles are getting precipitated out? Okay, I'll repeat then once again. Yes. See now, if you find the number of moles precipitating out, if they write here the number of moles has precipitated out, that means you remember those ions are always present outside. Okay, I will write here outside. These ions are always present outside. Okay, and they will directly react with the compound which you are taking. Like here now what they have made is they have made it to react with silver nitrate. So when you added silver nitrate, immediately whichever chloride ions were present outside, they reacted and they gave us 2 moles of silver chloride. Here in this case, I am talking about the first compound. Okay. So here, if 2 moles have gone out, that means from this compound which is given to us, from that 2 moles of Cl has gone out. So what is remaining now? You remove this Cl2 out. How many are remaining directly linked with the palladium now? 4 NH3. So that 4 will be the secondary valency. Okay, this 4 will become the secondary valency. Okay, followed? Now, I'll take the second one. See the second one case. In the second case, nickel Cl2 and 6H2O is there. And they are saying 2 moles of AgCl is precipitated out. That means this 2L is present outside. This 2Cl which I have taken here is present outside. They will not be inside the complex. If they were inside the complex, they will not answer the test. So these 2 are present outside the complex. How many are directly linked to the nickel now? This 6H2O molecule. 6H2O molecule is directly linked to the nickel atom. Okay. So that means the secondary valency will be 6. And in this case, platinum, the third one, platinum Cl4 and then 2HCl is given. Okay. They say there is no precipitate of AgCl. That means there is no chloride ion which are present outside the complex. Everything is directly linked to the platinum atom. So you count how many